So it looks like it is pretty official. I've been holding out on talking about the whole TikTok situation because I was just waiting to see what might happen. And it just looks like it's about to cease to exist here in America as of January 19th. It's gone all the way up to the Supreme Court, but apparently it's received a frosty reception at the Supreme Court level. This article says TikTok received a frosty reception in its fight to save the platform at the Supreme Court, which during oral arguments Friday expressed sympathy with the government's national security concerns about the platform's ties to China. The Divest or Ban law, which passed Congress with wide bipartisan majorities and was signed by President Biden in April, requires TikTok to face a ban in the United States beginning January 9th unless it divests from its Chinese-based parent company, ByteDance. The Supreme Court could still step in before then. It doesn't seem like it, though. Across roughly 2.5 hours of argument, the justices asked piercing questions about TikTok's First Amendment defense, posing hypotheticals about Jeff Bezos, the Washington Post, Elon Musk, social platform X, and even Politico's foreign-based owner. Congress doesn't care about what's on TikTok, Chief Justice John Roberts said. They don't care about the expression that's shown by the remedy. They're not saying TikTok has to stop. They're saying the Chinese have to stop controlling TikTok. So it's not a direct burden on the expression at all, he continued. The Justice Department raised alarm that the Chinese government could obtain access to U.S. users' data or covertly manipulate the TikTok content algorithm. Just on the data collection, that seems like a huge concern for the future of the country, said Justice Brett Kavanaugh. He suggested TikTok's vast trove of information on Americans could be used to develop spies, to turn people, to blackmail people who a generation from now will be working in the FBI or the CIA or in the State Department. Several justices during the argument appeared skeptical of the government's assertion that the law isn't subject to the First Amendment in the first place because TikTok has a foreign-based parent company. This is sad right here. TikTok, which has more than 170 million US users, has said divestment is practically impossible and the platform would go dark in just days. These are the kind of things our enemies do. It's not what we do in this country, said Jeffrey Fisher, an attorney representing the creators challenging the ban. At the center of the case is whether the government's national security interests can supersede the free speech concerns raised by TikTok and a group of creators that challenge the law as violating the First Amendment. It left the court grappling for most of the argument with what level of constitutional scrutiny the law should be applied. TikTok contends the law regulates based on content and must survive strict scrutiny, the toughest tier, which will require the government to show the law is narrowly tailored to achieve a compelling governmental interest. Justice Neil Gorsuch appeared most sympathetic toward that point, saying at one point, it's kind of hard to avoid the word content when analyzing the law. At most, the government told the justices that the law is subject to a lower standard called intermediate scrutiny, insisting the law doesn't discriminate based on content and instead regulates foreign control. The law passed broad bipartisan majorities in both houses of Congress, and our legislators don't always agree on everything, said U.S. Solicitor General Elizabeth Prelogar. I think it's unlikely that all of them had exactly the same views about what's good content on TikTok or what are good viewpoints. They weren't united on that. What they were united around was the idea that it is a grave threat to our nation if the PRC can itself, behind the scenes, be controlling how this platform operates. Prelogar added, Friday is expected to be Prelogar's final Supreme Court argument as Solicitor General as the Biden administration comes to a close. Prelogar has argued more than 25 cases in the role, the lead government attorney at the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court took up TikTok's case last month on an expedited schedule after the U.S. Court of Appeals for the D.C. Circuit upheld the law. The appeals court declined to decide which level of scrutiny applied to the law, but nonetheless ruled that it satisfied strict scrutiny, finding the government's national security concerns justified the significant impacts of banning TikTok. Though the Biden administration remains in the role of defending the law, President-elect Trump loomed large at the oral argument. Trump is not a party in the case, but urged the justices to delay the January 19th deadline so he can get into office and negotiate a resolution to save the platform. TikTok's attorney kept bringing up Trump's desire, saying that granting a temporary pause would give everyone more breathing room to work through the weighty issue of TikTok's future. Despite attempting to ban TikTok during his first term, Trump has become a crucial supporter of the app. During his campaign, Trump opposed the potential ban and vowed to save TikTok. TikTok's challenge is backed at the court by the First Amendment and the internet advocacy groups, social and racial justice organizations, as well as a trio of lawmakers who have voiced concerns about the law. Senators Ed Markey and Rand Paul and Representative Ro Khanna. The new law is backed by 22 Republican-led states, Senator Mitch McConnell, the House Select Committee on China's Communist Party, and former Federal Communications Commission Chair Ajit Pai, and former Vice President Mike Pence political advocacy group, and 2 former U.S. Attorneys General. If the Supreme Court allows the law to go into effect, TikTok would be barred from the U.S. app stores and networks. Lawmakers have told Apple and Google, popular app store providers, to prepare to comply with the law on January 19th. Once in effect, current U.S. users will still be able to access TikTok, although the app is expected to eventually become unusable due to a lack of updates. Noel Francisco, a former Solicitor General representing TikTok, told the justices the platform would effectively go dark and the ban is at war with the First Amendment. So that's where we are with the TikTok ban. I'm not sure if all of the creators here or everybody that uses everything is migrating to YouTube or whatever. I have heard that you can go over to Fanbase and it will bring all of your content over from TikTok over to Fanbase. I'm still playing around with apps, but everybody should let folks know where they're going. I am on YouTube at Bourbon Bougie, just like I am over here. So go ahead and follow me and find me over on YouTube. All right, let me know what you think about all of this. Don't forget to like, comment, and share. It looks like Mark Zuckerberg has bent the knee for Donald Trump. Ever since he went over to Mar-a-Lago, it seems like the moves that he is making is to kowtow to the new administration. This article from Business Insider, Mark Zuckerberg's Meta is moving moderators from California to Texas to combat concerns about bias and censorship. Okay, so you're moving from a blue state to a red state, and you're talking about bias and censorship. Okay, I'm sure that's going to not do anything for your platform. All right, the bullet points. Meta is moving its safety and content moderation teams from California to Texas and other states. CEO Mark Zuckerberg said the shifts would help address concerns of bias and over-censorship. Okay. Zuckerberg's Meta appears to be following the lead of Elon Musk X and prioritizing free speech. And we see how well that panned out with a lot of people leaving Twitter to go over to Blue Sky. I am over on Blue Sky. Mark Zuckerberg is moving Meta's platform security and content oversight team out of California, shifting staff who review posts to Texas in a bid to combat concerns about liberal bias and over-censorship at his social media empire. The CEO of Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, and Threads parent company said on Tuesday that the moves would help return Meta to its roots around free expression and giving people voice on our platforms. Zuckerberg wrote that Meta would move our trust and safety and content moderation teams out of California and our U.S. content review to Texas. This will help remove the concern that biased employees are overly censoring content. So this is what he put on Threads. It's time to get back to our roots around free expression and giving people voice on our platforms. Here's what we're going to do. Replace fact checkers with community notes starting in the U.S. Simplify our content policies and remove restrictions on topics like immigration and gender that are out of touch with the mainstream discourse. Number 3, change how we enforce our policies to remove the vast majority of censorship mistakes by focusing our filters on tackling illegal and high severity violations, requiring higher confidence for our filters to take action. Bring back civic content. We're getting feedback that people want to see this content again, so we'll phase it back into Facebook, Instagram, and Threads while working to keep communities friendly and positive. Move our trust and safety and content moderation teams out of California and our U.S. content review to Texas. This will help remove the concern that biased employees are overly censoring content. Now, of course, they won't do what they've done over at X and Fox and just become a propaganda arm for the right wingers. Of course not. I'm totally sure that that wouldn't happen. Number 6, work with President Trump to push back against foreign governments going after American companies to censor more. The U.S. has the strongest constitutional protection for free expression in the world, and the best way to defend against the trend of government overreach on censorship is with the support of the U.S. government. It'll take time to get this all right, and these are complex systems, so they'll never be perfect. But this is an important step forward, and I'm looking forward to this next chapter. Anil Dash says, you chose Texas so that any staff who needed access to abortion care or gender affirming care couldn't possibly be working in safety roles on the team, right? Why not say it out loud instead of censoring yourself? We wanted to make sure no women or trans people had power in content moderation. Jeff New says, all my sexes live in Texas. And this person says, so many exes in Texas are sexist. Geeky Girl Forever says, in what universe is Texas less biased than California? And then gave this George Orwell quote from 1984. The party told you to reject the evidence of your eyes and ears. It was their final, most essential command. Also in the news, Facebook owner Meta kills DEI and latest nod to Trump and MAGA movement. Facebook and Instagram owner Meta canceled its diversity, equity, and inclusion programs, the latest in a series of political maneuvers CEO Mark Zuckerberg has made to align his social media company with President-elect Donald Trump administration and the MAGA anti-woke movement. Meta said the sweeping policy shift was the result of the changing legal landscape for DEI, according to an employee memo first obtained by Axios. The Supreme Court of the United States has recently made decisions signaling a shift in how courts will approach DEI. Janelle Gale, Vice President of Human Resources, wrote, the term DEI has also become charged, in part because it is understood by some as a practice that suggests preferential treatment of some groups over others. Meta will no longer have representation goals based on race or gender and will not require a diverse pool of candidates when hiring, Gale said. Instead, Meta will focus on programs that apply fair and consistent practices that mitigate bias for all, no matter your background. The company's chief diversity officer, Maxine Williams, will take on a new role inside Meta. Meta is also shuttering its supplier diversity programs. The moves come just days after Zuckerberg announced that Meta would turn over content moderation to users and loosen restrictions on hate speech on his company's platforms. DEI backtracks ahead of second Trump term. Meta joins a growing list of major companies to backtrack on DEI commitments made after the murder of George Floyd in 2020. Forced a historic reckoning with race in America, including McDonald's, Walmart, and Ford, that have walked back some of its DEI programs. DEI critics allege that women and people of color are being handed jobs and promotions at the expense of more qualified and deserving candidates. Wow. On the campaign trail, Trump, a vocal DEI critic, promoted the idea that white Americans were the targets of racism and made reversing President Joe Biden's woke takeover of Washington a priority of his second term in office. Proponents say DEI programs are critical to level the playing field for people of color and women. JP Morgan Chase's Jamie Dimon and other business leaders have repeatedly stressed that diversity is good for businesses. Employees of color are underrepresented at every level of power in corporate America, according to USA Today data investigations. Our analysis in 2023 found that white men account for 7 in 10 executive offices in the nation's largest companies. About 1 in 7 of these companies had executive teams made up of only white men. With Republicans backing control of both chambers of Congress and calling for new regulations of big tech, Zuckerberg has publicly signaled the Trump administration in other ways. He named Trump ally and UFC boss Dana White to Meta's board of directors and elevated prominent Republican Joel Kaplan to lead the company's global affairs operation. And Meta also planned $1 million donation to Trump's inauguration. So there we have it, y'all. He's really kissed the ring. He's really kissed the ring. That's where we are with Meta and Facebook and Zuckerberg. Wow. He has gone full on Elon Musk. Man. All right, y'all. Let me know what you think of this one. This is wild. This is where we are. We're in the propaganda era. And this is going to be a wild ride. Let me know. Join the conversation. Let me know what you think of this. Don't forget to like, comment, and share.